Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. We're racing through 2018 now. Has it been a good year for you? Not as in Goodyear tyres, you understand, but I mean, have you met all of your goals? Or will you be carrying a few over to next year? Why am I asking this? Well, I want to try and get to know you all a little bit better, because every day I sit in my chair here in a room talking into a microphone on my own. I'm thinking it's kind of strange and intimate connection we've kind of developed here where I'm talking directly into your ears. Now, I don't want to be that crazy guy rambling on and on in the corner completely on his own. So I'd love for you to get in touch with me and tell me where you listen to this show, what your daily routine looks like, and indeed anything at all. But while I'm waiting for those messages, I want to introduce you to AllyO, which is an AI technology company that is transforming recruiting through intelligent automation. They are a Series A startup backed by investors such as Google, Bain Capital Ventures, Cervin Ventures, and Randstad Innovation Fund. Essentially, AllyO is an AI recruiter that utilises natural language processing and machine learning to automate and self-optimize the end-to-end recruiting workflow. That was certainly enough to get my attention, so buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to San Francisco so we can speak with Sahil, co-founder of AllyO. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely, Neil. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Well, let me talk on the personal front, and then I can tell you about what I do. Personally, I live in the US. I immigrated here from India, and I've been here for around 12 years, and I reside with my wife in Silicon Valley. And then on what I do, I'm the co-founder of AllyO, which is a high-growth startup in recruiting technology. And now we are, I think, now in our fourth year. Prior to this, I had a job in management consulting with McKinsey & Company. Before that, I had another startup, which was also equally fun. And prior to that, I got my PhD in engineering, which is what brought me to the US in the first place.
Fantastic. Now, for my research on you guys, I quickly discovered that AllyO is an end-to-end AI recruiter that makes your recruiting delightful and efficient with intelligent, automated and conversational engagement via texting. So I've got to ask, what is the role of artificial intelligence and what advantages does it help you offer over other recruiting solutions out there?
You've done good research. I think that's a fantastic summary. In fact, I think it took us several months to come to that summary. So thanks for doing the thorough research. I think two roles, two advantages. So for AI, one is it makes it more conversational, and second is the feedback and the learning. Right. So traditional software has offered primarily just automation. And what we're doing now is with the use of AI, which includes your NLP and machine learning, the NLP part allows for making the same automation more engaging via conversation. So it ends up being one lengthy asynchronous conversation like you would have with a human, as opposed to going through a software form and filling that up in a dedicated session. That's the first part of it. And then the second part of it is, again, trying to mimic the human brain, but far from that at current state, is the learning aspect of it, which is using AI and this time machine learning, is how can you use the memory and the right mathematical statistics to make sure it learns about the system, in imbibing the knowledge just like humans do as they become more experienced, and using that to make smarter decisions going forward. And so it's those two aspects that make it very unique, make it very advantageous over traditional systems.
And from my understanding, the technology behind it, AllyO utilises deep flow conversational AI to handle those complex and persistent multi-step workflows, which can be incredibly cumbersome too. But if we do have any recruiters listening, can you just talk me through exactly how it works and how the algorithms can actually predict candidate quality based on their interaction with the system?
Absolutely. And I think this is the best part of it. This should give you the full picture on how it comes in practice. So first and foremost, AllyO would go and read all the job recs. So these are your job posts on the career website. And it tries to understand what's the job title, what's the location, and what are the basic requirements for the job, both from the job rec and anything in the applicant tracking system and the internal systems. With that knowledge that's now being imparted into AllyO, it starts talking with applicants to understand what kind of jobs do they want and show them relevant jobs. And as a third step, it begins to screen those applicants for the job that they've chosen based on the basic requirements that AllyO has learned. As a fourth step, it then goes forward, and for those who have qualified based on those basic requirements, AllyO would go ahead and even schedule interviews with the hiring team members, be it recruiters, be it hiring managers. And for those who do not qualify, either route them to other jobs or respectfully ask them to check back later. And then once those interviews are done, AllyO continues based on the recruiting process that organization follows, which could include extending offers, doing background checks, checking in with new hires to make sure they're happy or find any areas of discontent. And in this way, Neil, it basically going all the way from first learning what are the different job recs and what are the requirements to having deep conversations, which are very complicated and dynamic, all the way from presenting relevant jobs to screening them, extending offers. AllyO is able to offer this end-to-end automated recruiter that is able to, provide these multi-step automated workflows.
And from what you said a few moments ago, it sounds like you've got startup and entrepreneurial blood running through your veins. But I've got to ask, what is the story behind AllyO? I'm curious. What put you on this journey to making recruiting delightful and efficient for everyone? And that moment you turned to AI technology to bring that vision to life. Was you a recruiter before, or what put you on this path?
I wish I was, and I'm still suffering from not having that kind of experience. To be honest, I think most entrepreneurs tend to have some deep pain and some history associated with the problem that they're solving. Yeah. And I don't, unfortunately. In my end, I think back in 2015, when my co-founder and I, we both got green carded, we basically quit our jobs and we explored different ideas. The only thing we knew, Neil, is that we wanted to do something in B2B2C, which is you make money from businesses, but you have direct social impact, and recruiting is number one in them. Now, my co-founder had worked at Google, I had worked at McKinsey, we only knew that kind of recruiting. So what we did is we set up a staffing agency where we went to all the local brick and mortar stores and enterprises, and we asked them, hey, what kind of hiring needs do you have? And then for 6 months, we would camp out in malls. I kid you not, my wife still doesn't go to the mall with me because everyone recognizes us as those people who never left the mall, right, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. But for 6 months, we camped out in malls, recruiting applicants and interviewing store managers. And in that process, we had 3 big insights. One is that both sides really hate the recruiting process. They just hate it. 2, what we found is that what both sides really want is that if somebody is qualified, let's have a conversation. And 3, we found that combined, the two of us working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, we could entertain around 315 applicants. And that was hugely limiting. So we took what we had, we said, okay, conversational, let's bring it into texting or WhatsApp or web chat or whatever. And secondly, let's try to automate as much of it, which is where the AI came in. And it was that construction that eventually led to the format of AllyO. The cool thing is the large enterprises, the main employers of the country, a couple of them loved us. And so we had 2 Fortune 10 companies sign us up just on that concept for multi-million-dollar contracts. And at that point, you've got 2 dudes who've quit their job just sitting there who were camping out in malls, have contracts, and now need to deliver on them. And that's how the business started.
Wow, what a fantastic story, though. And what an inspiration for anybody that's listening to this while camping out in a mall from 9 till 5 too. It's a great story. Now, at the moment,
I would say, in fact, I think it's encouraging for me too, because many a times people want to do it, but they try to harp on and wait on the idea too much. Yeah. And I feel it's less about having the idea. It's more about just going out there and talking with people and they, whether it's enterprises or consumers, and they give you the idea.
So this year, in 2018, there's no escaping buzzwords such as artificial intelligence and machine learning. But how do you see these two technologies transforming the recruiting industry?
I got to first give you credit. You're exactly right. They are heavily overutilized buzzwords, heavily overutilized. And so one transformation that you've seen is that it's become the best, most commonly used words by marketing teams, right? So that's just happening, and it's having almost a rebound effect. But if you focus only on recruiting, I think there are three things these two combined can bring to the recruiting industry. One is the obvious one, where it will improve the candidate experience by replacing your traditional applications with engaging conversations. And that is huge because 85% of applicants today never even hear back. So now you've got every applicant hearing back in a tailored conversation. So that's one. I think second, AI is going to automate a majority of the recruiting administrative tasks. Now, I had not been a recruiter before, like we spoke, but I have learned that apparently 80% of a recruiter's time is often spent on low-value activities. And everyone would rather focus on relationships, strategic, analytical work. And so automating that has huge value, not only to the recruiter, but just to the organizational overall for what they could use that time for otherwise. And I think third, what machine learning should be able to do, maybe not this year, but in the next 2 or 3 years, is having a much more direct tie between recruiting and business value. And this is really important. I'll give you an example. We expect in the next 3 months to increase our customer count by 50% in the next 3 months. And my call that happened just before our conversation now was around how the hell do we do that? Like, we need to hire like crazy. And for us, it's very clear that recruiting is going to have direct business value. But in large enterprises, that connect gets lost. And it requires data, it requires predictive models to reunite those two important aspects of recruiting and business value. And I think machine learning and AI will be able to do that.
So if we were to put the technology to one side just for a few moments, are there any big trends in HR that you're noticing?
I think the biggest trend is what you can mimic what happened to IT. I feel HR is kind of going to get disseminated from being this side support function, and it will get absorbed into individual lines of businesses. So your sales, your finance, your engineering will be able to subscribe to tools, to automated recruiters, and have their own very customized but very easy to set up HR functions. Yeah, there might still remain HR leadership, just like with IT, but the whole need for having a whole massive, hundreds of people just sitting as support function is going to get dissolved into organizations. And then second, I feel in that light, HR leaders will then play a more strategic role in planning and monitoring, as opposed to spending most of their time in administrative, responsive, reactive activities. And so I think these two things are going to be the biggest. And I feel the best way to kind of visualize that is to look at what happened to IT, where historically, if you remember, IT and CIOs used to be in charge of having those data centers in the basement and on-prem deployments of Microsoft or Oracle or whatnot. And today it's all AWS, where every line of business spins up their own instances, as opposed to having to go to a centralized function like IT. And only the IT leaders, the task that they're left to do is on the strategic side.
I completely agree with you, and I have seen hints of that happening already. So I certainly think you're onto something there. But in great news, I think we must mention was AllyO was recently recognised as a cool vendor in human capital management for talent acquisition by Gartner. I mean, that recognition must feel like a nod from the industry that you're on the right track, especially on how far you've come as well from those two dudes in the mall to being recognised by Gartner. That's fantastic.
I know. It is fantastic. It's actually very encouraging. I'll tell you, a huge validation, no doubt. We've been very lucky. Just in the last quarter, Neil, we won 3 of the biggest awards. We won the Gartner Cool Vendor. We won the Top Product of the Year by HR Examiner. And then we won the Staffing Industry's Most Innovative Product Award. But these awards are great. It's like educational degrees, right? You can go, you can get them. I think the biggest piece of validation, which for us is the biggest check mark that this is super real, is enterprises that would, in the early days, because of the sexiness and the jazziness of AI and machine learning, want to try what AllyO is. But going from trial to using AllyO across the entire enterprise, every job rec, from wall to wall, is what I think is the biggest sign of validation. I'll give you an example. I've got billion-dollar restaurant chains that today have only one recruiter, which is AllyO, that reports up to the director of HR, who reports up to the chief human resources officer. Can you imagine, like, billion-dollar enterprises, just one recruiter?
Wow, that's phenomenal. It's mind-blowing, isn't it? So, what's next for AllyO? Where do you take it from here? Is there anything else you can share with me today about your plans for the future as we look towards 2019?
Yeah, I think for us, everything that we do, each and everything, is about making recruiting delightful and efficient for everyone. And while the world has focused off late too much on just the candidates and just the experience, I think what we're trying to do is address not only candidates, but also the hiring managers, the recruiters, the business leaders, and give them not just engagement, but also this full suite of automation and, very importantly, intelligence. And so what we want to do is make AllyO the central AI platform that caters this kind of delivery to all stakeholders. And so literally, if this was not over the phone, but you were in the office, you would see this giant white wall with this matrix where you've got, engagement, automation, intelligence on one axis, and then you've got candidate, hiring team, and HR leader and business leader on the other axis. And everything that we do falls in one of those matrix cells. And so that's our vision that we are going for. And my expectation is the usual chatbot space, right? There's chatbots coming, whether it's in HR or whether it's in IT, help desk, or sales and marketing. These are going to commoditize by 2020. And so one has to think of chatbots as something that's just a conversational medium, but more think of, hey, what's the bigger vision? What's the platform? What's the entire suite that's being delivered to an enterprise, such that they're not sitting with 200 chatbots and trying to integrate them, but essentially subscribing to this bigger suite that helps them solve their end-to-end ERP problems.
Fantastic. Well, a huge thank you for coming on and joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time out. But before I do let you go, could you just remind the listeners of where they can find out more information about AllyO, find you guys online, and maybe even reach out and contact a member of your team if they've got any questions?
Absolutely. Look, for us, we're building a new category, and a big part of that, if not the majority of it, is educating the market on what this future could be with this technology that we've developed. And so the usual places to go to are the website. We are at allyo.com, ALLYO.com. You can email us at any time at hello@allyo.com. I think personally, I love to take out time and talk with influencers, leaders like yourself, anyone else out there. So you can email me at Sahil@allyo.com and would love to have a conversation.
Fantastic. Well, I do know there's a lot of people listening to this show that are on their own startup journey at various stages of that. And I think your story today of being those two dudes in that shopping mall, it's going to resonate with so many people on that journey. And to see how far you've come and you've worked hard, you've put the hours in, and then here you are being recognised as a cool vendor by Gartner. That on its own is inspirational, but you're also building a brand new category. And I can just tell that your passion for what you're doing really comes across too. So a big thank you for sharing that with me today.
Absolutely, Neil. And thank you so much for having me on the show. Very great to talk with you.
I'm not too familiar with the recruitment industry, I'll be honest with you, other than many of them are guilty of bending the truth and promising you the world to secure their commission, but that was just my experience. What I love about AllyO is how it addresses the traditional inefficiencies of lost applicants and conversions due to those poor candidate experiences. and that high cost of recruiting due to overburdening of administrative tasks that we've all seen on hiring teams. A breathtaking stat that I feel I must share with you before I go today is AllyO is the most deployed AI recruiter and has processed millions of job applicants for Fortune 1000 companies. Their customers include Walmart, Hilton, AT&T, Arby's, and so many more. And many of them have experienced a 6-time increase in applicant capture and conversion rate, along with a 60% reduction time in cost to hire. So there is your ROI right there. But if we do have any recruiters listening today that are not angry with my comment I made a few minutes ago, I want to hear from you. I want to hear your thoughts about how technology can improve recruitment. I'm not a recruiter. This is not my area of expertise, but I know there's going to be a few listening. So email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, or pop by my website, techblogwriter.co.uk/podcasts, and leave me a virtual voice message. But in the same way the sands of time are running out of 2018, I'm afraid we've reached the end of another episode. But have no fear, this is not the end, it's just au revoir. I'll return tomorrow with another great guest. So thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.